And we are live. Hello, and welcome to another Fracking podcast. I'm Joseph, and I'm here with my co-hosts.
Marty.
Van.
And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're tuning in again, thank you so much. We're so glad to have you back. Today's episode is Weird Science, and we'll be discussing technology inspired by sci-fi. And we are back. Okay.
Weird Science, but not that really bad 80s movie called Weird Science. Sorry.
Look, there was the movie and there was a TV show.
That's what I thought. I thought there was a TV show as well.
You remember the TV show?
Barely.
So one of the characters who played in Stargate SG-1, who was a Tok'ra, was the actress who was in this, I think, TV show. This is a random bit of trivia from the age-rattled confines of my mind. So anyway.
And if he's wrong, please leave us hate comments and tell us. Boost our
I mean, I look forward to hate comments.
Give us the engagement.
So that's okay. Yes. Hate comments are great.
If we get enough of them, maybe we can do an episode on them.
That would be hilarious and enjoyable.
I mean,
I do feel like we should start our wonderful technology inspired by sci-fi episode by talking about Mary Shelley, because we got to give all the credit to the queen and mother of science fiction,
who is continuously denied her role as the creator of science fiction. I have to add, it just bothers me every single time I see a publisher or somebody post something about it. She was before H.G. Wells, people, and Edgar Allan Poe.
And Jules Verne, and it really bothers me because, yes, she wrote the first sci-fi. People sit there and argue, "Oh, it's horror." It's like, except
you can have two things.
Yes,
two things.
You can.
Weird.
I mean, it's science fiction horror.
It is.
It's science fiction with horror elements, or horror with science fiction elements. But either way,
sci-fi has other elements in it, right? Like,
it's true.
Yes.
But this story, I mean, the story of Frankenstein does not exist without the science fiction elements in it.
Right.
If you just had the horror, it wouldn't be Frankenstein.
It would not.
The classic movies, I love them so much. It's so good. There is definitely science fiction in it. The idea of electricity and life was something that was very new and very fresh. We're talking, what's his name? Luigi something. Like a decade before Mary was born, was the one who was like, oh yeah, electricity through these frogs gets this reaction. There's something there. So she was definitely using science in her book, like to deny that it's science fiction is wild.
What's crazy too about it is how much this has actually kind of inspired actual medical technology today, because we have people who have had, transplants from animals or from other people. I mean, not that they've become a Frankenstein monster, but I mean, this idea of using, the flesh, the organs of other creatures to sustain life.
Pigs in particular. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was an article just recently about somebody who had a modified, I think, kidney from like a pig that was put in, and I think they lasted like 3 months or something. Like, it wasn't a super long time, but they were terminally ill, and this was a thing. It was pretty cool.
Transplants
And
are an incredible thing. And I want to give her credit for all transplants. We would have figured it out eventually, I'm sure. But I want to give her a lot of credit here. Uh, Also, when we are resuscitating people, we are using electric to bring them back. Like we're not waiting for a storm and getting
Right.
lightning, but
Thank goodness.
well, we
that
have
would be
generators. Like she wrote about what was feasible in her time, and I think that's what's so important is that
yes.
it's like
Mhm.
these ideas percolate in people's ideas and brains, right? And look, during the Cold War, there are even experiments with like head transplants, like straight up crazy experiments that people have tried.
Yeah.
And it's not like, okay, that was an extreme example, but a lot of the talk around transplanting and then genetically modifying organs and stuff, it has its origin on sci-fi, Mary Shelley, like it has inspired at this point centuries, right? So I think it's amazing.
And that
I
she came up with it
truly,
when she was so young. I mean,
Yes. We're talking
incredible.
about
yeah,
a teenager sitting around bored, starts a writing contest with friends.
Brilliant.
And here we are now.
yeah.
Yeah, I 18, I believe, like baby. She was a baby.
It's it's just amazing to me that she gets overlooked. And of course, the people overlook her for Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, etc. No, like,
I
and don't
I
get me
love
wrong,
H.G. Wells.
right?
Jules Verne, amazing, but we got to talk about Mary Shelley too.
We have to. It's absolutely essential. And I mean, organ transplants and medical technology are so important to modern society. I feel like we have to acknowledge how important that is.
Yes.
Um, yeah, it's just wild. So I made the mistake of using my brand new flip phone. So I got the Razer Flip Android for work, but I'm using that to stream on TikTok. So I can't hold up my prop because I'm using my prop now.
I was really, really close to adding the picture that you sent of your phone into the album, but I was like, nah, Joseph can use that photo himself if he wants it.
Yeah,
But
if I
yeah,
had
now
thought of
you
it.
have a flip phone. We have gone back to flip phones. I think that's hilarious.
It is wild, and I think it's super cool that the cell phone in general was inspired by Star Trek. If you ask like inventors of the cell phone, they're like, "Yeah, I mean,
Obvious.
we we wanted to communicate just like they did in Star Trek." Like, there's no hiding the fact that cell phones are directly something inspired by sci-fi. Um,
Yeah.
and it's come in many formats, right? So we started off with like big external battery
Mhm.
and like handheld units,
Lugging
and
around
then
a
we went to the
suitcase.
yeah, and then we went to um basically the Zach Morris phone, right? The big goofy cell phone, and then like Motorola made the first flip, where the only thing that flipped was like just this cover over the speaking piece. That's all that flipped,
But that
but it
is
was
like
a
the
flip
most
phone.
practical cell phone, I think, because it was like the one cell phone that I wasn't like calling people when it was in my pocket. Like I wasn't accidentally like opening people to dial. I wasn't accidentally texting people. Even now with my new phone, like sometimes I accidentally delete apps.
Yeah,
So I mean, I miss the flip phone. I miss the Star Trek era of cell phones.
Yeah.
this is why that's just why I got the Razor for my work phone.
It's so wild that the Razor is back.
I know.
I love it.
I mean, I
Not
had my
just
mom's hand me down pink Razor, like in college.
It is one of my favorite things ever. And when the first like smartphone came out, everybody thinks it's the iPhone. It was not the iPhone, right? Like Blackberries were out before the iPhone. Microsoft had
They had the
um
Sidekick. T-Mobile had the Sidekick.
T-Mobile had the Sidekick, which they don't. I mean, I don't know. Was that a smartphone?
I mean,
Kind
you
of like
could
on
get
the
on the
cusp.
internet with it. Because my sister
Yeah.
accidentally ran up a $3,000 phone bill on it once, so I know you can get on the internet with the Sidekick.
That's
Beware.
Oh my god. So
Beware
this
of
comment from
parents if you
Ryan.
give your kids an old
I've
Sidekick.
accidentally factory reset my phone by just okay.
that's hilarious. I have not done that. I
That is
think
my worst
it
nightmare.
is because I don't put my phone in my pocket very much.
It's my nightmare too because my cat stepped on my phone once and almost deleted TikTok, which would have deleted 300 drafts just because my cat walked on my phone. I'm like, okay, no.
Oof. Oof.
So
See,
I believe Ryan when he
Oof.
says he accidentally factory reset his phone.
I I don't put my phone in my pocket that much, and I'm gonna blame pocket size
fashion
for that.
industry for being sexist beyond belief.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
I
just call it out.
yeah.
Women don't get
I
pockets.
mean, that's a whole we should do an episode about costumes, and then I can rant about pockets and why women don't have them.
I mean, this is going to be good Halloween conversation, I think, because if
Yeah,
you
I
want to talk
mean,
about villains, there's a villain right there's the fashion industry. But
the fashion industry.
Definitely. Yes. It is.
Uh,
I mean, the best
yeah.
thing in women's fashion, in my opinion, are the boyfriend jeans. Because if you buy a
Ooh,
pair of
they're
boyfriend
so cozy.
jeans, they have long pockets. They have like almost men's size pockets in them. They're the only jeans I can find on the market from the women's section with pockets that will fit a modern cell phone.
Yeah. That's another thing about modern cell phones. They're getting way too big. Like
Time to
I've
scale back.
talked to men who are complaining about them not fitting well in their pockets anymore because they're too big.
Which is why I
Um,
think the flip phone is going to be a great thing to go back to.
I mean, I love the fact that we have foldable displays now that we can use to have flip phones and foldables, right? So,
eh,
like,
that technology is so much fun. I'm
so cool.
mine. My brain is like, wow. I it's a lot.
I am super like I cannot explain how excited I am for this phone that I'm using. I have not been excited by a phone in a long time because look, I'm an iPhone user for my personal stuff, right? iPhone. I haven't upgraded this in
Ew.
2 years because
Ew.
it's the
Sorry.
same. It looks the same. It does the same things as like for the last what 10, 12 years. It's just wild.
Yeah. I will never not say ew when somebody's like, iPhone this, iPhone that. I'm like, okay, but like Android
I'm going to share
will
this
talk to
comment.
the other phone.
It's not about phones, but it made me think. So John mentioning that fanny packs are coming back. And all
They
I can
are.
think about is when you watch Star Trek, I don't think they have pockets either because
They
they are
don't.
carrying around like fanny packs. When they do have to carry around something, they're belting it around their waists. And
Like
I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
there has to be, and I want to see this scene in a Star Trek show. There has to be like a room right next to the transporter pad where there's just, like hanging belts because they're always like grabbing a belt in
yeah.
between leaving the bridge and getting on the transporter pad. They get this belt and start holstering things in. And I'm like, where was that? Just out of pockets. This is why I love Enterprise costumes. I have a lot of
Yeah.
criticisms of the show, but the
The
costuming was
coveralls
like
make
that. No, this
sense.
one makes sense. This
The
makes
Because
sense.
it has
coveralls make sense.
pockets.
It has pockets.
Yeah, but where were T'Pol's pockets?
Okay, we cannot speak about costume choices when Rick Berman is in charge of a show because we know that he's going to put
Look,
somebody in a onesie and
I 100% believe that T'Pol had a fanny pack someplace. they just wouldn't let her take it on away missions. But
It-
I'm sure she had a fanny pack full of like everything she needed,
I mean,
including a recipe for plomeek soup. Maybe even some plomeek in the fanny pack to go with her like data
okay, so
pads
we're
and
we're
stuff.
getting sidetracked, but what's
Oh,
Plomeek?
sidetracked? Never.
I
What's
need to know
Plomeek?
what. Yeah, I need to
Plomeek
know
is
what
a
it is.
is a root vegetable native to the Vulcan planet. It's like a vegetable that they use to make a vegetable soup.
Okay,
It's the
I
soup that
really
Nurse
like
Chapel made
vegetable
for
soups.
Spock when he was going through Pon farr and he threw it in her face.
Yeah.
He was this is essential knowledge. This is essential knowledge.
okay, so I have to address this comment from John just because. Well, it's John more like.
She had a
calling-
really nice costume in Carbon Creek. She
But
looked
it wasn't
amazing. She was
T'Pol.
gorgeous.
It was her grandmother.
Yes, technically, but also that any of her outfits could have had pockets easily. That like it was not skin tight.
Which is
That was
one of the
before that was
reasons I
before
love
the
that
fashion
episode.
industry destroyed
Yeah.
clothing.
No, that episode is my favorite Enterprise episode, and one of the big reasons is
No
like,
Archer.
well, that's a whole other conversation. But I love the costumes in it. They are so well done, and she looked so comfortable. The acting in that episode is amazing. The story is hilarious. It is a fun episode. But yeah. She definitely needed pockets in that episode, and I think she had them.
And if she did, with pockets, she could have put her flip phone in there easily.
It
Well,
would have fit.
I'm just like, I'm circling back for us. I'm circling back.
I'm stuck. Okay, so we're talking about Enterprise. I'm going to bring up warp drive, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So warp drive's super cool. And it's like, well, we don't have warp drive, except we're
Yeah.
working on it, kind of.
We
right?
are. Yeah.
So there's a Mexican physicist, Miguel Alcubierre. I'm slaughtering that. Anyway, he has written papers on how we could have a functional warp drive. Now, in his papers, he explains that we would need some sort of power source that would be exotic matter. However, there was a revision to his theories by other scientists who were reviewing it. And it's like, we could actually do this with the technology we actually have now. It would still be hugely expensive. And I know I'm going to explain this. This is not me mansplaining. This is me explaining for anybody watching the podcast who doesn't know how warp drive works. So the idea behind warp drive is that you are folding space around the ship. You're warping it. So basically, you're folding space in front of the ship and then expanding it behind. So you're just zipping through faster than light speed. And this is how you get beyond the confines of general relativity and E equals mc squared, which Einstein, if anybody doesn't know, right? E is energy, m is mass, c is the constant. So the speed of light is a constant, and that's squared. And what that means is you need infinite energy to get mass going the speed of light, which means that you can never do that. Because the closer you get to the speed of light, there's an exponential need for energy. So you just can't do it conventionally. So folding space is one way of doing it. Now, we've all heard of wormholes as well, right? And that's a whole other thing. But I also read an article where they postulated that the universe could be full of wormholes that we don't know about. And what a wormhole basically is think of a black hole as like, okay, the fabric of space is like a bed sheet. So imagine a bed sheet. And the way gravity works is let's take a softball and like you're pulling the bed sheet tight on four corners, right? And there's nothing underneath it. You throw a softball on it and there's an indentation, right? So if you were to roll a marble around that softball sitting there, it's going to roll around if it has enough speed. And as it loses momentum, it's going to fall into that indentation that the softball has made in the fabric of space time, right? Now, a black hole is like, okay, great, we've got this bed sheet, we've got the fabric of space-time. Let's get like a super dense, like bowling ball sized piece of uranium and throw it on the bed sheet, and it just falls straight through and just rips the fabric of space-time. And now anything you throw in there and gets close to that hole, it's just going to fall into that hole and it can't get back up, right? Like
Also, for the
that's
record, if you do this, you're gonna have to buy new bed sheets.
if you
Yes, you will absolutely have to buy a new bed sheet.
yes, you will.
But
So a wormhole is like, think of two really heavy bowling balls. They're not going to break the sheet, but they're on opposite ends, and they basically force the sheet to fold in, and they touch. The ends touch, right? So that wormhole is just like a shortcut through space time, right? So like everybody thinks about, oh, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, except not in like a 3D curved universe. It's actually a curve. And so you could have this like extremely drastic wormhole that's a shortcut between 2 points in space. And that's another thing that is potentially out there. And Einstein's equations basically say that this is something that's possible. Kind of cool. Anyway,
we just have to
Before
harness
we
dark
move
matter,
on,
right?
I just want to tell you that your absolute favorite science fiction universe, Dune, folds space.
yes. And I did recognize that. And I thought that was cool.
I actually
We just
saw
fold
I
space
saw
with drug addicts.
I actually saw a technology that had to do with sand, and I thought about bringing it up just for you, Joseph. But then I thought, you know what? We'll leave Dune to some other time.
Look, just because I think Dune is, except I will admit that the new movies are actually kind of fun. Okay, I'm going to admit that after I forced myself to watch them. Right?
Torture.
It was torturous for me. I can't stand the books. I still can't. We can talk about Dune. It's fine. I'm aware of some of it now, so it's cool.
It's cool.
So cool.
So aren't we close to functioning ion drives? We kind of already have those. We launched a satellite. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was to Jupiter, maybe. One of them was actually using kind of like nuclear propellant to basically push ions out. So yes, we do have like a form of ion drive, like not a very sophisticated form, obviously.
I wasn't able to deep dive warp drive as much as I would like, but from what I understand, isn't the problem at this moment the fact that we just haven't harnessed dark energy, or we haven't figured out what the negative energy is?
It's just an energy question in general, right? So it's just something that's beyond what we can do with our current capabilities. It's not that the science is beyond us. It's just it's going to take some more research, and there's a lot more to it. I mean, the dark energy issue aside, I think there's also like the conversation around like, is it possible to do this? Yes, and I think one of the possibilities was like referencing a different dimensional plane. So like subspace, basically,
Mm.
right? Which is all very cool. Which is like create this field around the ship, which would be a higher energy plane, and then you're able to fold space and move forward. Which means that we don't have to have this like exotic matter. And what they mean by exotic matter is like something we don't know about yet, right? Like something beyond the realms of what we can comprehend.
Like dilithium crystals.
Dilithium. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, as soon as we find those, warp drive, here we come.
Well, what I think is cool in Star Trek is also like the entire wardrobe was like matter antimatter reactions, and this was like stuff that was just theoretical at the time, based upon Einstein's research, but in like modern day times, we can't create antimatter. But the
Thank you,
minute it
CERN.
touches matter, it just big boom. So
Big boom.
I love like everything about Star Trek and the way they explain warp drive, like magnetic fields to contain the matter from the antimatter so they can like have a very specific reaction. Like all of it's super cool and it's actually what they're trying to do with um even with fusion right now is like using magnetic constriction to like hold in the matter that they're trying to like shoot tons of lasers at so that it can not cool down super fast. Anyway, I get I get a little bit carried
Excited?
away.
I mean, I'm ready for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not ready for
okay.
this. I don't
Okay.
want this. I
This
don't
is
like this. We can just
this
burn
is my
it.
moment to
Burn
shine,
it.
you guys. This is
Okay.
this is my moment, as the kids say. This is
Ooh.
horrifying. So, if you're watching this live, you can see the image on screen. If you can't, what is on screen is something called the Neo robot. This is an android that's been created by this company called One by Tech. It's a Norwegian company. It looks, if you're not watching, it looks like the androids in season 4 of Westworld. I mean, it's horrifying. Humanoid shape. Basically, they're calling this, and I quote, they're calling this your intelligent humanoid assistant. And basically, this company is combining robotics and artificial intelligence to create a new branch of innovation, which they're calling embodied learning. And their goal, I'm not even joking, this is straight from their website, their goal is large-scale manufacturing to, and I quote, produce humanoids at a high enough volume to create an abundant supply of labor and solve problems at a societal level. Now, I think we have all seen enough android robot movies to know that this is horrifying. So these things are crazy though. They're essentially androids with bodies that have been engineered with like musculoskeletal anatomy so that they're quote unquote gentle. They're not like your hydraulic robots. These are like very humanoid robots. They can understand language and space around them. They actually learn from interacting with people and from performing tasks. And the more tasks they perform, the better they become at doing it because of the artificial intelligence aspect of it. They can walk, they can jog, they can climb stairs, they can run. They can run at like 7.5 miles an hour. Like, I'm not joking. This is like horrifying. And they look like these. I think, what did you said earlier? You said it's kind of like this
Uncanny Valley. That's
uncanny
all
valley.
I get.
It's
If they
scary.
looked different, I would probably be on board, but they look too humanoid and I just cannot.
Oh,
And
these
the
are
wild,
horrible.
they're horrifying. And there's a quote on their website when it's under what they can do, their capabilities. The website quotes, they excel in industrial tasks in sectors like security, logistics, manufacturing, operating machinery, handling complex tasks. But their long-term vision is providing valuable home assistance and performing chores like cleaning or organizing. And this is the part that gets me. So if you're an Isaac Asimov fan and you are the robot series that he writes, you know that
Right.
Asimov has like the 3 laws of robotics. And these laws basically ensure that robots have to adhere to their human quote unquote masters, so to speak, that they can't do anything to harm human life, right?
Yeah.
This is like the science fiction trope of all science fiction tropes. There is actually a human override function in these androids that this company has made. If something is going wrong, that you as the human user can like interrupt the interface and you can override the android. If you have to have that feature in your product,
I was just reading that.
I'm it's frightening.
I don't want security robots. I don't want them learning from interacting with humans doing a security job. I don't want them learning things.
What scares me is that somebody's going to try to like tie this into AI for learning, and
Well, they are.
the problem with that is like most AI models, given enough time, turn into absolute fucking fascists because people online purposely mess with with it, asking crazy questions because that's our nature, right? Like we want to
Yeah.
like push the envelope and see how dark things can get, right? Like
Yeah.
a company that exists that does software that I'm not going to name years ago put an AI model on Twitter, and within
Yeah.
like hours, it was basically calling for the extermination of certain groups of people.
Yeah, I
Well, and this is already embedded with AI. The crazy thing about this model,
This is
you can
horrible.
order them. There's a waiting list. You can go online. You can get on the waiting list for these. They have two different models. They have the Neo model and then they have the EV model or something like that. You can get on the waiting list for these things. Like they are seriously. And the first time I saw this, I thought this was a joke. I honestly, I saw it on a TikTok. I thought this is made
it
up. This
it
is for
should
a
be a
movie,
joke. It
and
should be a
it's
joke.
legit. I mean, I'm thinking of like, I'm thinking of real humans. I'm thinking of Terminator. I'm thinking of David from Prometheus and the Aliens series. I mean, like, I'm like from the photos, it's hard to tell. This thing is 5'4".
But
This thing is my height. I mean, it's human size.
but what about data?
Listen, I love data,
I-
but what about lore?
Okay, look,
exactly.
What?
But this is like the exact thing that like we as like science fiction lovers have been like fearing, I believe, for like for decades. I mean, Asimov was writing this decades ago, this fear of like humanoid android life and like the good that it can do, but also the bad that it can do. And we're basically taking away these abilities from human life
right.
under the guise of it's going to make our lives better, that we can spend more time doing creative things like art that AI is already taking away from us. I don't know. Why do they have to make
I
them look so horrifying? It's not
I
like it's
had
a
to put
robo
this
vacuum
one.
cleaner.
I
Yeah.
had to put this
So
one
I love my Go
simply
ahead.
because this is also kind of scary because this is hydraulic and super powerful, right? Um, like
I mean, that
look,
thing looks like it could rip apart a spaceship.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it could, to be honest.
I love robots. I do. I love robots. There are some robots that are just fantastic. I have a little shark. Yeah, a little shark. It's white. We named it Great White. We call it GW. We're very polite to it. We've had it for years. Sometimes we put googly eyes on it, which is adorable. Um, this is the kind of robot that I want in my house. I want one that is very specific and very helpful. If I had a laundry folding robot, I would probably have one. I hate that. I hate folding laundry. Um, but I
I
don't
mean, I
want them
think that
to
the
look
Neo
too
robot will be able to fold
humanoid.
laundry for you eventually.
I don't want it to look that humanoid, and I want it to be more task specific. We use robots in manufacturing settings already. And people are already complaining about this is taking jobs away from people, but I'm loving it in a lot of industrial settings where we can like take humans away from very unsafe jobs. And then we can have these very specific task oriented robots to do a very specific task. And we still need humans to repair said robots. Um, so I like robot technology in that way. I don't think we need robots that are learning.
I mean, isn't
Um,
there a horror movie out right now about this exact thing, about a family that gets like an AI in their home? I mean, I just I understand it remains the John Hammond quote from Jurassic Park. It's not that we
Just
should, it's that we could. Like
Yeah.
But maybe we shouldn't, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Look,
something about
so you mentioned the 3 laws,
Yeah.
and Ryan mentioned the 3 laws. But if you read Asimov's stories, those laws are flawed, and in every single story, something gets violated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pushed too far. And the laws for everybody. A robot must not harm a human or allow a human to come to harm, even through inaction. A robot must obey human orders unless doing something conflicts with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence unless doing so conflicts with the first or second law. And then in 1985, he added the fourth law, which was a robot cannot harm humanity or allow humanity to come to harm through inaction. But still, these laws are not perfect, right? Anything written by humans is going to be as flawed as humans are.
Right.
And we're talking about artificial intelligence. So, like, this robot essentially is not going to be that intelligent. Because the AI that we have now, even though it's like super advanced compared to what we had in like the 90s, it's still just a series of algorithms. It's not self-aware. It doesn't have the capability to become self-aware. Still very dependent upon people running data centers with a big switch where they can just shut everything off. Like, that's essentially, we are okay right now with things like this. It's the mechanical foul-ups that worry me, right? Like, it's not that it's going to become aware and purposely exterminate all of us, but it is going to. The programming could be shitty or it could be hacked, and that's what worries me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
yes.
Yeah. I
The
mean, if
threat
you
of
look at the
compromise.
statistics, if you look at the statistics of the thing, it just scares me. First of all, it's quite large.
Yeah.
They say it has a 44-pound carrying capacity. That's a lot of weight. That's a child. That's a small child.
That is a small child.
I mean, that scares me. The fact that it can run as fast as it runs faster than me. And it's not going to get tired unless its battery runs out. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
The only good thing is
So-
like it's not that heavy. Like I'm pretty sure I could take it. It's 66 pounds. I got it. But
yeah. So in
it
zombie
scares me
movies,
that it learns. That it
Yeah.
improves its actions based on its performance. Like it improves every single time it does a task. And that scares me so much. But yeah, I guess if the switchboard stays operating and nobody takes over the switchboard, I guess we're okay.
yeah, that's fine. So in zombie movies, there are so many different kinds of
Oh,
zombies.
John is
But
talking.
the zombies that run, I think, are the most terrifying.
Those are the most
So
horrible.
like a robot,
Yeah, they're horrifying.
that
Robots that run, like no.
no,
It's like
I
that's
think
like
that technology does not need to exist. I see no good purpose for that. Sorry, no. Mm-mm.
So John brings up the British show with the robots. So you're talking about the show. It's the British show is called Humans. It's actually based on a Swedish show called Ekta Människor. The Swedish version it's horrifying. I mean, the British version is scary.
Okay.
The Swedish version is horrifying because it really dives deep into it goes into what happens when Asimov's laws basically don't work. You should look it up.
Yay.
scary.
It
It's
is
really
Well, for
it
me-
is the season for spooky
It is.
things.
For,
So
for me, it comes back to the AI component and like how smart is it really, and how safe is it from compromise, right? Because if this is all software run, I'm a hard no already, right? Like if you can
Mhm.
update the base operating system of anything,
I feel like it would
It's a
have to be,
flaw.
right? That would have to be part of their business plan that you can update it, right? Nobody's going to shell out the kind of money for this thing if they can't in the future, like
get
make it do
additional
more than what
features.
it already does. I mean, you're not going to
Yeah.
you're not going to buy the updates for your Xbox, right? Like if the new game comes out or whatever, you're not going to get the extra mods, right?
But you see, this is why it horrifies me about this,
Well,
right?
yeah. No, I agree. No, I agree. Yeah.
And this is okay. So this is a special kind of hell for me because of my job, right? Um,
Me too, because what am I going to write about in the future if it's all real?
um,
I'm going to come up with like
you will
Okay.
stop writing fiction and start writing
my next thriller is
Horror.
going to be about this robot losing control on some
Uh,
innocent family.
I really feel like that's a very feasible thing, and not because it's self-aware, but because some like threat actor
Yeah,
group is gonna like push
exactly.
some sort of update because look, Neo, I don't know anything about this company. I'm going to assume their cybersecurity posture sucks ass. You know why? They're a startup. I'm sorry. I know technology. They probably suck ass. Just throwing
I
it
mean,
out there.
when I look at their website, which is a very nice website, I have to give them graphic design team
it
props.
is
It's a good
it is
website.
a
It
good
looks,
website.
which is why I thought it was fake at first. I honestly thought this is like a movie website that they've made. Like like they used to make those websites that like the Matrix website, and you log into it, and
This
you can
is
like
a
find all the
promotional website
exactly.
for a really funny movie or like a sketch comedy show, right?
But I feel like
I'm
they're probably waiting for somebody to buy them out, right? Somebody big.
I'm looking at the inspection of their code right now on the website. Just FYI, because I'm curious, and this is what I've now
Oh
decided
no,
to.
I've looked at the website. I hope it doesn't mean that my phone has already become one of these robots.
Uh,
No, but I mean it's just
uh,
basic JavaScript and CSS code. So
So be
look,
careful giving your information if you sign up for the waiting list, guys. That's what we're trying to tell you.
yeah, I wouldn't sign up on this waiting list to be honest.
oof.
For many reasons, one of which is like my sheer horror and fear of being killed by a robot. But
I just don't. I
um,
mean, for every like good robot, every bicentennial man we get David from Prometheus.
Oof.
yeah,
I yeah, robots
For
are
every data, we get the T100 or whatever.
yeah.
hey,
Robots are gonna be a thing. I think we don't have enough fear of the technology that we're creating. Um,
Or enough fear of our
I
inability
I
to can't
feel like
control it.
Ian Malcolm all the time when I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so my mom,
just because
mo-
we can doesn't mean we should.
so I love science, right? Like I'm wearing my lab coat, obviously. Like I worked in science. I'm passionate about science. I have degrees in science. I know Marty does too, right? Like science is a passion, I think, for all of us. My
Mhm.
mom constantly says that the worst people in civilization are scientists because of the things they try to figure out. And I'm like, but like we have vaccines. And she's like, yeah, vaccines are great. I'm not talking about the obviously good things. I'm talking about the obviously bad things. Like, and she'll point to things like this robot, right? Or like the weapons. Like she talks about nuclear power all the time, and she's like, I mean, it took Oppenheimer not even years to go from, "Oh, hey, look, we built a nuclear reactor," to now let's build a bomb. Like, she just feels like we weaponize things too easily, and the scientists don't think about humanity enough. So,
I think we need to ban Ryan from comments because he's scaring me. I'm
um,
afraid now of the Wi-Fi robots. Look, I want
It
a robo vacuum cleaner like Van has. I think that'd be great. I want the
it's
robot that
amazing.
like mows my lawn. I like the
Yes.
robots that we're using in operating rooms for surgeries. Um,
Incredible.
I don't want these robots. I don't want to like open up, like go out to get my newspaper in the morning. We don't even do that anymore. Going out to get my mail and seeing the robot walking the neighbors' kids like to school or like pushing their little like prams. I just that scares me.
Yeah, I
I feel like that's one step away from like us being like that Bruce Willis movie Surrogates, and we're just like all lying in bed and we have our fake bodies going to work and stuff for us.
yeah.
okay.
Some days that
S-
would be nice though.
I
Speaking of
agree.
science, that concerns me.
Okay,
Like
scary
the
science.
machine brain interfaces,
Oh
right?
yes.
So, like these things, not those things. These interfaces horrify me because it depends on who's making them, how safe they are, right? So
Yes.
here's an example of like
Yeah.
them actually trying to use this like brain interface to control a computer. Our favorite billionaire inventor, and I say favorite like with extreme sarcasm because everybody knows
Oh,
that.
I was like, all of the
I'm
billionaires
like, I
are
don't
my
have any favorite
favorite.
billionaires, Joseph. Just
Look, eat the
Okay,
rich. Anyway,
sarcasm a little bit thicker, please. It took me too long to get that one.
look, if anybody knows me, they know that I am not a fan of Elon Musk.
I mean,
I am a
that sentiment
fan of
is shared.
laughing at Elon
Oh,
Musk.
so we all feel the same about this person.
Yeah,
So
he is our
continue.
favorite billionaire to laugh at. Mostly because of the Cybertrucks being put together with kindergarteners glue
With
sticks.
like paste and caulk, basically.
Glue sticks.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's what they used to assemble them.
Look, and I'm not one to judge what a car is made out of because I drive an F-150 and it's aluminum. They moved from steel to aluminum, so not the toughest thing in the world. But
The
still
F-150 is made
welded
out of
together.
aluminum these days.
Still welded together, and the frame is still solid steel. And guess what? It actually can tow things without breaking its fucking axle. Anyway,
And when we apply the Neo model to it, it will be able to tow things on its own.
This is true. This is true.
Jesus. So Elon Musk has
The
created
F-150 with its mind of its own. This is a Stephen King book. It's Christine on crack.
Wasn't there a Supernatural episode where like the truck was haunted?
probably there's a supernatural
I
episode
think
for
it's
everything.
I think it's scarier when the truck is like driven by a robot than when it's haunted by a ghost.
But I want to hear why you're afraid of the brain computer interfaces. I mean, it's
I think
interesting
they look
because
really cool.
every time I read an article about these brain reading robots, these brain computer interfaces, it's all about like helping, people who are tetraplegic patients being able to use the world around
Okay,
them. And so
great use case. Awesome. Put something on somebody's head, on top of somebody's head. They can move a cursor. They can open doors, whatever. Great use case, very much for people who need it, right?
right.
Love it. Neuralink, where you're implanting chips into people's brains.
Oh, we're just
For
becoming the
what
Borg.
reason?
It's fine. Resistance.
And
Well, it's
who's
kind of
running this?
like those neurochips that they were coming up with, where they were using actual brain neurons in these computer chips.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But so look, implanting technology to make you into a cyborg is already kind of scary. The fact that the person who's trying to do this is Elon Musk terrifies the fuck out of me. And the reason for
Yeah.
that is when you have venture capitalists, because that's all he is. He's not an inventor. He doesn't invent shit. All he does is like he made a few good financial decisions around PayPal, got billions, and then just started hiring really talented engineers, and then decided to get involved and has destroyed those companies. Anyway, point aside, when venture capitalists are in charge, like, okay, what are you going to do with this brain computer interface with Neuralink? Right. So it's like, okay, the idea behind is to help quadriplegics and people with recovery, but I don't trust the person in charge. And that's the biggest thing for me. There's no regulation around it because it's such new technology.
I mean, to be honest, I can't think of anything worse than being implanted with like a neural implant from Elon Musk and then just getting all of his horrible Twitters DM'd right to my brain. I don't need those tweets, right?
No.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think I would
ads for
trust
the Cybertruck.
anything inside my brain from the company that brought us Cybertrucks. Another company maybe, but like
I don't think
we're
I want
gonna
any
have to
companies
improve
inside my
this.
brain.
Yeah, we're gonna have to improve this technology. Now, I
But-
do like a lot of the things that we are talking about doing, not necessarily the Neuralink, but like putting chips underneath the skin. So like if I could just not worry about forgetting my credit cards at home, my bank cards at home, that would like I could just like tap to pay with my wrist, I would. Like,
I do feel like this is one step away from Repo Man, though. Like, at what point then do we have so many of these neural links in our organ system that, like, our brain suddenly belongs to X or
I
to
mean,
Microsoft, and then something goes wrong, we need a new
Hey.
brain, and we owe them all this? Am I reaching? I don't think I'm
No,
reaching.
you're
Not,
not reaching,
I
and
not
don't
with
think
these,
you're
that's a
reaching.
concern.
not with these
That's the concern.
robots that are going to be in people's houses.
So to actually implant anything into your body, right? It has to have like the ability to either be completely invisible to your immune system, right?
Right.
So doesn't cause a allergic reaction, right? So hypoallergenic, which
Right.
means that these things will probably break down in your body at some point. Um,
Or they're
Which
gonna have
I
to be
love.
so
created from some like combination of
Which I love.
tech
I
and
want
stem
it
cells.
to not last forever because the technology is going to need to be updated. I'm going to have it removed every 2 years to put in the new chip
wow,
anyway.
okay, hold on, pause with that
What's going on in the chat?
because we just had our first troll comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
I am
troll!
so happy to have a troll. Elliot, we will
Thank
not
you,
be
Elliot.
voting for Trump or Vance because they're fucking Nazis and we don't like fucking Nazis. So, anyway, I'm going to
Yeah.
go there and I'm going to
Yes,
ban
bye-bye
your
Trump 2024. Bye-bye to him. Thank you.
bye-bye.
Wow.
So that guy obviously
Aw.
just put themselves on the waiting list for the Android model.
Yeah,
And they've already been implanted with Elon Musk.
so I apologize to Van's parents for
What a
my cussing,
segue.
by the
Sorry,
way.
Mom, Dad.
I'm sorry, Van's mom and dad.
You probably already stopped listening to this one as we ramble.
And if I forgot that I was live on TikTok, so I've been cussing up a storm and I haven't been banned yet.
Well,
Anyway,
it's fine. Um,
so back
let's
to our
move.
regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, back to our regularly scheduled chaos. What else are we getting?
I need my robot to
We are
bring me some water.
Oh, I picked this
Neo.
photo on purpose. Janeway getting her replicated coffee. I relate to this so much. In the morning, I typically wake up and the coffee is already made because my partner is awake before me and makes coffee before I get up. Replicated instantaneous coffee. This is what we all need in our life.
Right. And so like the replicator's one version of this. Obviously we can do more than coffee in the sci-fi universe. But this is all based on the original series protein sequencers.
Yes.
Right. So making custom kind of food. And one of the things that it inspired was the like creation of microwave ovens. Which is like just a quick way to like heat up an instant meal. Right. So and even the inventor of the microwave said that they were inspired by sci-fi, to kind of create these things. But going even beyond that, like we're looking at meat alternatives, right? So people are taking components to create things like, the Beyond Meat type situations and trying to go even beyond that. So like
3D
really
printed
creating
food.
Well, that's what I was going to just say. Did you guys see that new article recently from Columbia University? They have successfully 3D printed cake.
I would eat
I
it.
mean,
Like they 3D printed a real cheesecake.
I need to try this because I have a 3D printer that's just collecting dust right to the side of me right now.
You could be in the cheesecake business with that 3D printer.
If I could be 3D printing a cheesecake right now, well, one, I would need way more Wegovy because I would be super, super eating. Anyway, let's not go there.
I mean, the other thing too is, I mean, can you imagine if there was a replicator that could just replicate biodegradable clothing for people who can't afford clothing?
I love the idea of replicators and clothing. We hear about it a little bit in Voyager because
Mhm.
we have the one child for most of Voyager. We only have Naomi. But they talk about her growing and her
Mhm.
mom putting her old clothes back in to be recycled into new clothes because she's growing so fast. Um, as a mom, that oh my goodness, I that would be amazing. I need
And the fact that you wouldn't have to be like the old clothes aren't gonna like go to a dump someplace.
No, it's gonna be recycled,
Right.
I
which I
this
love.
I love everything about that because
I mean, I
yeah,
think
a lot of our
replicators
clothes is just ending up in landfills.
yeah. Replicators and transporters. They're the two things I've always wanted the most from Star Trek, but they're also the two things that kind of scare me because I feel like they can, as good as they could be, I feel like mankind would use them for bad.
Well, I mean,
Oh.
if I could replicate anything that I want, yeah. Like, I'm gonna just make a bunch of, like, cosplay shit, obviously, but, like, Bubba down the street is not gonna be using it for good things. So, wow. We
Today is
obviously
apparently the day for troll comments.
I'm gonna
That's
blame
uh,
the TikTok live that's going on.
no,
yeah.
this is definitely because we said Elon.
Yeah, it's
We
the
invoked his
algorithm,
Oh, we
name,
so
triggered
and the
something.
algorithm called
yeah.
all of the little Elon fans to us. That's on us. That's on us. Uh,
Well, they can sign up for his brain transplant
yeah,
neuron
yeah.
implant thing.
I mean, they need a brain transplant is what I'm getting at. But have you seen they've been 3D printing houses in, like, different
Yes.
I
communities?
love
Yes.
3D printing houses. I think that's incredible. That inspirational. I would live in one. Some of them look really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they seem very neat. They're very sturdy because I think they're made out of concrete, so, like, they're solid homes.
I
Like,
think
I
that they
honestly
would
want
be really incredible in disaster areas
mhm,
where,
Mhm.
like right now, we just had a huge, and by huge, I mean like massive across hurricane in the US. And the path of devastation it created is wild. And it's not even just on the coast. We're like, "Oh yeah, no, the coast, couple 100 miles inland." No, hundreds of miles inland. Up in Ohio, where I'm from, there is a lot of problems and flooding, and certainly not as bad as Tennessee and parts of North Carolina are experiencing. But like to be able to go into these communities and 3D print at least some shelters, some buildings very quickly, that would be incredible. Um, I want this to happen.
we've gotta figure out how to make somebody a mod, by the way.
I
I haven't
don't know
figured
how to
that
do
piece
that.
out yet.
We probably have to be logged into the
The YouTube.
YouTube account and then do it from there. Um,
I'm going to try to do this while we keep talking about amazing replicators and other sci-fi. How about this? We're gonna move on to this.
oh, I'm excited about this, and I know currently most people in medicine are telling you not to get the whole body scans. I
Are
think
they?
whole body scans are really, really great. The problem with it currently is we're going in and getting these whole body scans and finding, oh no, this huge problem. Um, and then it's freaking people out and stressing people out. And
Oh,
in
see, I was
reality, it's a problem that is not a problem.
I feel like the problem comes with the insurance companies because
Yes.
if the insurance company sees that you have a potential underlying condition, then they're not going to insure you. They're going to raise up your premiums. But I think the idea of these med-based scanners essentially is really interesting. I was looking up one of them and it was talking about how they can measure hundreds of biomarkers in like 15 minutes or less. And that would include like hormone levels like your fat buildup in your liver, markers for inflammation, cancer, or whatever. And then they build this like 3D digital avatar of you. And then every time you go in and get rescanned, they can
So
see any progression of illness or any change in injury. And then it just like in Star Trek, it updates with you. And then the doctors of
I
course can use that to see, for example, one of the reasons that they were talking about using it is for determining earlier on if somebody's developing dementia or another degenerative disease, which I think is incredible. But yeah, I think the insurance companies are going to be the
I
biggest problem.
think we have to get to a point where there isn't, not just insurance companies can't deny you or they're going to charge you an insane amount. Like, we have to regulate that industry, but we also have to get society mentally to the point where we don't have medical anxiety. And it's not just, I'm not saying we're just afraid of doctors, which is one thing, but medical debt anxiety is huge in America. Um, Loss of work, just I have to take time off of work to go to the doctor. Like, how am I going to do this? Can I schedule this? Like, there's so many obstacles already to medicine in the US, and we're just, this is not alleviating a lot of the obstacles or the concerns. For a lot of people, it would only create a problem because, okay, now I have a pre-existing condition and now my insurance premiums are going
Mhm.
up. I had to take off half a day of work to go get this workup done. I'm behind at work. I had to use, my time off. Now I can't spend that time off with my family later. Um, there's
Well, that's
I
because
want
healthcare in the
it.
United States is run like a capitalist hellhole, right? Like
It
that's the
is. It
problem.
is. It is. And what I'm
So
saying is, to get this technology and to use it correctly and for the betterment of humanity, we need people to be able to access medical care and
mhm.
not have intense anxiety about it.
Yeah.
They need to know, if I get this scan and they find something, I'm not going to have to lose my insurance or start paying an insane amount. If I need care, I'm not going to have to pay an insane amount to get the care that I need. Um,
Yeah, so
Right.
this
so yeah,
picture is actually from one of these companies that is like creating this. This is from Q Bio, and they're calling it like your digital twin, which is cool. So it's like they scan you, and then you come back in like a year later, and they scan you again. They can compare whether or not different layers of your hormones or just on a structural layer if they've changed, which is crazy because I saw this image and I'm like, this looks so much like the images from Star Trek
it does.
Yeah.
where we're looking at like these medical scans that they do, and I was just like, oh, it's crazy.
Like this.
Yeah, here from
Yeah.
Discovery.
Yes.
It's super cool.
It's
But yeah,
so
like I'm
exciting.
curious, Marty, like healthcare in where you are is totally different from where we are.
It is. It's very
Like,
different. It's insanely different. I can't even explain to how crazy it is. Well, actually, I can give a great example of how different it is. So if you are a woman in the United States, you know that like literally every year once you turn 18, I don't know, they quote unquote, they make you go in and get your female exam, right? They test you for cervical cancer and all of that stuff. You get your pap smear. In the Netherlands, you get it every 5 years. And you have a choice whether or not you want to go to the doctor and have it done, or they will just mail you a packet. You can do it yourself at home.
Wait, I could do it myself at home?
I'm not even joking. And
That's an option?
I got a letter in the mail like 3 months ago saying I was due and I forgot to respond. By respond, like you have to call your doctor and make an appointment. If you don't make an appointment within a certain amount of time, they literally just send you the packet. I got the package in the mail yesterday. I opened up. It's wild. But like, I went to medical school for a few years.
I'm so angry.
You can
I'm
absolutely
so
do it
angry
yourself.
right now.
You can absolutely do it yourself. And it costs nothing. The government just sends it for free. Here it is. We want to make sure you do it. And then you just mail it in. They include the stamp, the postage, and everything. It's wild.
Yeah. So,
Listen, I know medical care for people with uteruses in the US is trash. And I could rant about that for a very long time. But you're telling me that they will just send it to me in the mail with prepaid postage for me to send back?
I'm not even joking.
Okay,
It looks like a COVID test. It looks like a COVID test.
I'm looking at houses.
It's exactly what you think it would be. It's like a Q-tip swab. You just swirl it for 20 seconds, put it in the thing, you mail it back, and then they let you know. They let your doctor know what the results were. And if they find anything, they call you back into your doctor.
My brain is exploding right now.
All this medical anxiety that people have here.
I mean, on top of like just the the anxiety of like going in and having it done. I mean, the anxiety of having to take your clothes off in front of a professional in a white coat, and I mean that's difficult for a lot of people. Just the act of going in and having the procedure done, and technically, you could just do it yourself.
Like, you're telling me I don't have to be in pain?
No.
With that ridiculous?
It's basically
I'm so
it's like
angry.
putting in a tampon. For people who understand, it's like putting in a tampon. And then you just take it out and you mail it in, essentially. It's wild. But that's just one example of a healthcare thing here. But there's a lot of different healthcare things here.
That's a huge example.
The downside downside, quote unquote. If you want to have something like colonoscopy done, they're not putting you under for it. You're going to be awake. So that's also an experience.
I'm fine with that.
I actually would much
prefer I never go under.
You don't need to. You don't need to.
There's new science where you don't even have to go through the whole full colonoscopy, right? Like it's just been FDA approved to do it a different way. So, like, we don't have to have all of the medical anxiety that we do.
No.
And the only reason it exists is because a group of people decided that America was perfect 50 years ago and we want to stay that way. And it's ridiculous that that this group of people refuses to progress.
Well, I think it's also part of the capitalism that, every time you go in, it's going to cost money. Every time that you go in, you're paying big pharma or whoever for these outrageous procedures.
Yep.
And when you could just get the mail-in version.
The downside I say downside, not for us, but for doctors, is that in most other countries, like they get a salary and that's it. And it's a good salary, right? They get paid well.
But they're not going into debt with school. Like if you want to become a doctor in this country, it's like $6,000 a year for a 6-year program. You're not like $400,000 in debt. So you don't need a $700,000 a year salary.
Correct.
Yeah.
So people just like, it's a job and they do it well and they get paid well and they're not $500,000 in debt at the end of school.
And they go home at 5 to be with their family.
Yeah. It's I don't know why this like concept of American exceptionalism exists when people do so many, and it's not that we're not good, right? What's good about America is like the promise that we can change to become better. And we've been stagnant for the last like 30, 40 years because this like idiotic group of people don't realize that we should progress as a species. So here we are with all this anxiety around basic things that could happen.
My brain is still like exploding.
I'm just
And
sitting here
so
enjoying the chat.
angry.
So
I have a
anybody
spare
who's
bedroom.
listening, Van's eyes are like twice as wide, and she's blinking, and just you can see her processing how stupid we do things.
I feel like I'm gonna have to make a TikTok about this thing. I'll have to show it. I'll have to show it, not how to use it, but I won't
Obviously
demonstrate
not how to use it, but
it.
I
I'll show it though. I mean, when I moved here, my mind was blown as well. There was multiple things that when I moved here that I was just like, yeah.
Okay.
It's wild.
We have
But
to start
I, for
talking
one,
about
would do.
something else so my
I,
brain
for
can
one, would
kick
do
back
the
in.
scanner.
Yeah, I would love to do it. I think it sounds fascinating. I would love to see all the things wrong with my body. It'd be fun. Oh, I picked this photo so specifically of this very, very vintage desktop computer, and I love it. I almost took a picture of my own desktop to add in, and I decided not to. But I currently have the desktop. Our big tower has fun rainbow lights in it and like a glass panel so you can see inside. And then I got the two monitors, and it's very Star Trek screen when the screensaver comes on. But this is kind of what I remember our first PC being when I was a kid. It was much more similar to this.
typical 90s
Mhm.
era PC with a 3.5-inch floppy drive and CD-ROM, so probably late 90s.
It looks like the
Not
one we
early.
had in the late 90s.
Yeah. Looks like could be like a Packard Bell, maybe. Anyway, why is this up on the screen? Okay, so let's talk about it as I sit here and like try to analyze the damn computer. So that's up because in Star Trek and other sci-fi shows, we see people with like consoles on their desks. And in the 60s, computers took up entire rooms,
Mhm.
right? So it was that idea that we would get to a future where everybody would have access to a computer. And that's one of the things that sci-fi has inspired, right? Is kind of this explosion in computer technology as well. And there is Moore's law from Intel, right, which basically says that the speed of computing a computer processor is going to like double every 18 months or so. I think that's Moore's law. Scott is in the comments. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But what we've seen since like the 80s, when like the first Mac computers came out, is that Moore's law has stayed true. We have seen like this exponential increase in compute power every single year, basically. And we've gotten to the point where like this has exponentially more compute power than the capsule who landed on the moon, right? So
Which is wild
Yes.
that we
It's
now have
my
trouble
little
going
cell
back to the
phone.
moon.
My little cell phone has the power to go to the moon.
like honestly, my smartwatch, right?
I mean, honestly, your
I-
cell phone is probably too overpowered to go to the moon. At this point, it needs to be like depowered if you want to send it to
Yeah.
the moon.
And I use it to look at cat videos, which is, I think, the best use of technology. Cat videos, and
And this
Cybertruck
podcast.
videos. I
I'm watching the
love
podcast.
sending Cybertruck videos to Joseph so we can laugh at them together.
I honestly,
I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna
Thank
go
you.
out there and say it. My cat has like an iPad. Like he has a tablet.
Yeah,
So I mean,
as,
so I was
as
wrong
he
about Moore's
should.
law. That's the actual law. Transistors in a circuit will double every 2 years with minimal rise in cost, which leads to an increase in compute power because transistors are the switches, right? So on a basic level, we talk about binary code, right? That's just on and off. And every computer basically works because they have on off and they're computing possibilities based upon just this very binary system. And so the more transistors you have on the circuit, the more compute power you have. So every 2 years, you have twice the number of transistors on the circuit. Thank you, Scott. Anyway, my computer science professors would be really pissed off at me right now, but that's besides.
That's
the
okay.
fact. I was going to look it up. Anyway, what's cool about this is we have everybody, including like school children, have access to computers or even tablets and cell phones that have tons of compute power, right? And especially when it comes to things like tablets and cell phones, as we've already talked about, right? Very much inspired by Star Trek and sci-fi in general. But the entire computer age is run by nerds who wanted to have access to computers like they saw on TV.
I mean, obviously, I do like the improvements that they've made on tablets, though, because in Star Trek, like in the next generation, we will see scenes of our favorite characters at a desk, Picard at a desk, or Beverly at a desk, and just stacks of these of these little pads. Because people writing Star Trek had the idea, yeah, we've got these cute little pads and this is great, but scientists took it one step further and it's like, oh yeah, we have pads, but we're going to put all the pads together. You can have the
Right.
pad do more than one thing. I love that. That makes
I just
me
love that. I love that Star Trek had like the first ebooks. You know, they're reading ebooks in Star
yeah,
Trek, and then we get the Kindles, and it's
but we don't
fantastic.
need a different Kindle for each book.
No, true.
We can have all the books
All of
on
them.
one Kindle.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the day, I can't remember who said it, but there was like storage space or memory, and somebody said like I think it was like 100 or 256 kilobytes is all you'll ever need, as far as compute power or like storage space or compute power.
In my
It's
dreams.
it's like okay, as I sit here with like
That's not even one photo of my cat.
that's not
Yeah,
even one photo.
In high definition.
You got to get the high definition photo.
Especially
Yeah.
of my cat.
No,
Dude, I
I'm
love
trying to find
this.
that.
Yeah, this is a good
Yes.
point.
This is what I'm talking about.
Was she handing Cisco pad after pad with theories from the genetically enhanced people? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good. Exactly.
And the thing is, this was in the 90s, right? Which is where Star Trek really the one area where I feel failed to realize that we would just have like one pad, which would store everything on. They're not books; they're like compute devices.
I still love though how so many characters like Picard, Kirk, that despite the advances in technology, they're still like me. They're still going on vacation and carrying like 15 leather-bound books with them.
Okay.
Yes.
Look,
Yes.
I feel like we have to bring up the fact that I have a Fire tablet, not a Kindle. Like I have a Fire tablet with all of my books on it, and I still never bring it on vacation with me. I will get physical books and bring them with me.
There is something very, very different with a physical book that we have not really the experience of reading a physical book is not completely replicated by our Kindles or our tablets yet. There's something about the weight, the turning the page, the smell,
The tangible connection to it.
it is still different, and I don't think we're gonna lose books. Like people have been worried that we're gonna lose books completely. I don't think we will. We're even finding where people write fan fiction online and are having it printed and paying people to bind this fan fiction in leather. Like not just they're printing it out, but like they are making actual books so they can have something tangible. And I love this. I love this.
I love the fact that we do have access to these things, computers, which we're all sitting in front of, and cell phones. But you're right. Like there is something about the tangible aspect of holding a book, and I love that sci-fi even recognizes that and still has like paper books.
I mean, I think there's something to be said about our connection to the senses and memory, and
Yeah.
that being important when it comes to like reading or experiencing music even sometimes. I remember like I think that's why like people will always be collecting vinyl. There is something about this,
I love my
like you
vinyl.
said, this the smell, the tangible aspect of like physically doing something with it to make it have the effect. I
Right.
think it's always going to be there in some form.
Some music just sounds better on vinyl, and I will argue that point forever. I love my vinyl. I love my books. Give me the
Books.
technology, but also
Who loves
books? What books?
Books. I don't have any
I
books.
don't know. I don't know. Books, I don't know them.
I think I'm the only one that doesn't have books in the background when we record, which is pretty impressive.
We'll have to do a book
Considering the
episode.
beautiful bookcase you have in your house, yeah.
I do, but
It's
also
true.
this is an enclosed office, and there are actually books above me, but they're all like my spouse's business books.
So I love this comment that Scott says about Spock giving Kirk the bound copy of A Tale of Two Cities. I just feel like there's something personal about giving books as
Yeah.
gifts, and there's something there's something meaningful there. I mean, it's like a real understanding of a person
I
that
sent
you
one of my
do
favorite
lose when you
people.
have it on a tablet.
I sent one of my favorite people a book recently. So
This
Here
is
it is.
true. This is true.
It's on my desk.
That is
now,
a
to be
beautiful
fair,
copy of The Hobbit. I am very jealous.
I low key was trying to troll you a little bit. Like I wanted you to have it because it was a good copy, and like it, I thought that you would have fun with it.
I like nerdy trolling, friendly banter, friendly trolling. That I can deal with.
Oh no, you trolled Marty by sending her an amazing copy of a book.
And yeah, because now I have to read it. Now there's no choice. So I've added it to my winter reading. As soon as I can use the fireplace, it's going on the read list.
Talk about another tangible thing. A fireplace. Like we now have LED fireplace.
No.
Like I turn on the fireplace on Netflix all the time because it has that wonderful crackling sound.
Yeah.
But when it gets cold enough that I can like just start my actual fireplace, a whole new level of amazing.
It's like the smell. I mean, if you have a wood fireplace, if you have a gas one, maybe not so much a smell, but the sound and the feeling is just perfect.
It's amazing.
I'm going to put this up here. Like this is how Joseph trolls.
It is.
Because I don't burn books. So this is how I troll. Anyway.
How I troll is I buy Joseph a panda in Washington, D.C., and then it sits in a bag by my front door as I forget to ship it to him.
What'll be amazing is I will probably visit North Carolina at some point soon. I will probably go to your house, and we will both forget that panda exists until I am flying home.
Probably.
You'll have to wait at least a year to see how I troll, because it'll be in my next book.
Fantastic.
Oh God, I'm dying. Anyway,
not the
one coming out. The one coming out in a year. So
no. Oh, okay.
Although I mentioned a few people in that one, so look out for it. Trek Talk people.
Author trolling.
Author trolling.
Author trolling is the best trolling.
It it's pretty amazing. Oh, we're gonna talk about submarines. I did a deep dive about submarines, um, which then led me to learn way more things than I probably needed to. So we talked earlier about how Jules Verne is sometimes like given a lot of credit for being the father of science fiction instead of our beautiful Mary Shelley. He's also given credit for inventing submarines, and he did not. Not even close.
No,
Several
not even close.
hundred years before we had submarines. Before he wrote about submarines, we had military submarines. So
I thought you were gonna be like, before Jules Verne, we had Tom Clancy and the Hunt for Red October.
yes,
Okay,
we
that's one of
had
my
Tom
favorite books.
Clancy.
I love that book.
Yeah, no.
No, yeah, because when
So
you think of Jules Verne, I mean, I think of submarines first, and I think of hot air
yes,
balloons second.
which are both amazing. But he was not the first, and so I did a whole deep dive into it because I was confused about the timeline for a little bit because like one of my kids got really into military submarines and ships for a while, and so I learned so much about it, and we had like a whole week learning about the turtle, um which was during the American Revolution. Like
Yeah.
we had a military submarine during the American Revolution. I mean, it did not sink the ship. It wasn't successful, but it existed. It was there.
The French had one too, right? I think.
I believe so.
Sorry, go on.
There was a Dutch inventor, Cornelius Drebbel, which went under the River Thames in I think 1620 something.
Oh wow.
Like
That's
a
wild.
mathematician actually like conceived of a submarine back in like 1578, 1579. Like the idea has been around for a very long time. Jules Verne does not get credit for inventing submarines. But however, he did inspire a lot of people who made modern submarines.
Right.
So the first submarine to go under the North Pole was a nuclear powered submarine, the USS Nautilus, named directly for the Nautilus and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So if you do research into submarines, a lot of the people who invented or worked on modern submarines were very, very influenced by Jules Verne. And so we're going to give him credit. We're going to give him plenty of credit. He was inspirational. But yeah, not the father of science fiction. And not the inventor of submarines. And I'm a little disappointed by that fact. I wanted him to be the inventor. But no, they've been around a very long
I mean,
time.
I think it's cool. I mean, he did other things like from the Earth to the Moon. I think he talked about shooting,
which was also wild, from the Earth
Yes.
to the Moon. I mean,
like shooting people
Yeah.
to the moon from a big cannon, right? That was the
Yeah.
story.
which
And
is actually they are working on I don't want to say like cannonballing, but like catapulting satellites into
They are.
space.
big
I read an
catapult,
article about this. I can't remember. I can find it.
like an electromagnetic catapult, I suppose. I mean, that's cool. And you know, in a lot of so like I watch anime, so there's a Macross
Everybody
Plus
does.
was like a big one when I was growing up, and they had these ships in these like huge long ramps that were like magnetic catapults to like launch their like ships into space. Anyway, so
I
that
found
makes
it.
sense. You found it.
Catapulting
your
satellites
article.
into space. It's a prototype system called spin launch, where they're using
Okay.
kinetic energy. They're using kinetic energy instead of the usual technique of chemical fuel to basically spin payloads at 80,000 kilometers an hour and 10,000 Gs and launching them skyward through a large launch tube. That sounds insane.
I
So-
But they're
love this
working on
so
it.
much, but can you
And
repeat the name
they've-
again? Because
they've-
I'm pretty sure
called
that my brain laughed too hard. Spin
It's
launch?
called spin launch. That's
I
what it
love this.
says. They said they've
I
just
love
signed an
this
agreement with
so
NASA.
much.
So
Okay,
there's a
I need
picture,
to.
which you probably cannot see, but you can see it looks exactly like what you would think with the tube.
Oh
It's
my god!
I love this. This is amazing.
How is this not
Everybody-
going to destroy the payload? Like
me
this
see
is
if it answers
sensitive
that question.
equipment.
They have somebody who's really good at packing delicate things.
Okay, so Pierre's comment: what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
I
will go wrong.
mean-
It'll be perfect. It'll be
Catapult.
perfect.
It says, I don't know if this answers the question, but it says that they will be using some small rocket engines to help the payload reach orbit, but it should cut down fuel and infrastructure by 70%.
So we're just
By
spinning the.
spinning them and then launching them through the tube.
I am so excited by this.
Okay,
That's
so what I was
amazing.
talking about looks nothing like that. Like this is. I'm essentially talking about like a railgun type mechanism where you're like. Anyway, okay, so spin.
I
launch.
feel
But
like
then there's only so much.
This is one step
dressing
away
at
from,
the
like, a
bottom
Cedar
of the
Point ride.
jar, and you're like spinning your arm around trying to get all of.
I mean, this
delicious-
is basically what a sling is, right? Like, are we trying to
Yeah, it
slay a
is.
giant?
Yeah. Yeah. We're slingshotting things into split.
As Pierre says,
space.
what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing will go wrong. It'll be fine. People use
I-
trebuchets for a very long time, very successfully destroying things. I mean, launching things. It's fine. It's fine. Just don't aim it at castles. We'll be fine.
Or cities.
You know,
Look,
See, I came across a
Yeah.
lot of weird things preparing for this episode today. So, like,
I'm really glad you did. I'm really
I
glad you did.
feel somehow unprepared, even though like I can deep dive on quite a bit. Spin launch threw me for a loop. I am like speechless right now.
yeah,
I love that you are now having like your brain explode the way I had my brain explode earlier. And Marty is just over here exploding our brains today. And I love that.
I mean, this is the reason I'm here.
Marty.
That's I'm
we
the
love
comic
you.
relief. Comic relief.
I
and
mean, you're
brain
just listing
exploding
kind
facts.
of knowledge.
You're listing facts.
It's
and
factual
just-
comedy.
Ooh.
I kind of have to ask, did Elon Musk come up with this? Because
No, definitely not.
That's how Boeing's going to get their next set of astronauts into space.
oh my god,
Oh goodness. Can
Gonna
we
fling them into space. My apologies to anybody on the International Space Station that might be watching this.
oof.
and stuck there forever. Anyway,
Forever is a very long time. They're not stuck forever.
suborbital accelerator. I
Just until February.
am
be fine.
I am now obsessed with the spin launch. It's the size. Oh my god, this thing is the size of the statue. It's bigger than the Statue of Liberty.
I know it's huge. Well, you have to get a lot of
So you're
centripetal
telling
motion
me
there.
that spin launch is real and your Neo robot, which also looks fake, is real. I
Look,
just don't think
that-
satire
I
has
had
a chance anymore.
I had a really
I-
hard time preparing for this episode because every single thing I came across, I thought it was fake. I thought it was fake news. I was like, I'm not gonna fall for this. But then like I looked deeper and I'm like, no, there's a legitimate website company for all of these things.
Oh my goodness.
I am just without words right now. So,
satire is
Since
dead.
we're on comedy, let's move
Oh
on
my goodness.
to-
This is the best photo. This is the best photo. I searched so hard to actually find a photo from Xenon. If you missed the amazing movie, the Disney Channel original movie Xenon, I think it came out in early 2000,
I remember.
maybe late
It was.
90s.
The golden era of Disney Channel cinema.
Yes, it was amazing. I watched it
Or of the
multiple
21st
times.
century.
It was so good, but they had a self-driving car, and if you remember, the cars of the future were the Volkswagen Beetle, which is
Yes.
hilarious, because Volkswagen has now discontinued. They don't make the Beetle anymore. But we had self-driving cars that these kids stole and programmed to drive them around.
And see, the wild thing to me is, like, I remember the first time that I like consciously remember a self-driving car on TV was a Minority Report. And I just remember thinking, yes, if there's a self-driving car in the future, it's going to look like that. It's going to look sleek. It's going to have these like wicked, fancy, futuristic wheels. And it's going to have Tom Cruise in it, obviously, because he's going to be in everything. But
Obviously.
now that we actually have them, and I won't say the name because obviously that's going to invite people. Now that we actually, I'm just like sad. Like, why don't they look like Minority Report, or why don't they look like Beatles?
This is I really want
Disappointing.
Beetle. I would love a self-driving Beetle.
I mean, a self-driving Beetle would be great, as opposed to that thing.
It's so
The
ugliest.
ugliest-
Listen,
The ugliest
I
thing
don't
on
even
the
think
road.
I would hate how it looks so much if I didn't.
I mean,
just
I
like
used to think
making
that the
fun of how
PT
it falls
Cruiser was the
apart.
ugliest car.
Yes, the PT
No.
Cruiser.
I
I
used to
definitely
think
made fun of it for being
PT
ugly.
Cruiser, I was like, it looks like a hearse. It's ugly, but when you compare it to this thing, the PT Cruiser is like a Mustang. I would drive it
There was
any day
that-
of the week.
There was that cube-shaped vehicle that came out. I can't remember what it's
Oh
called.
yeah, my stepdad
Scion?
had one
I
for a
don't remember.
while.
But it was still like a cube. I make fun of those all the time, but not to the
Yeah.
extent that I make fun of these failures at being trucks. And it is
This-
mostly because they were put together with glue sticks. I swear those things fall apart if you just think about them too hard.
So this was what I thought was the ugliest car ever. The Pontiac
Really?
Aztec. I had a
It's not
visceral
even that
reaction the first time I
bad.
saw one. I mean,
not even that
how bad is
bad.
it?
I have to say, I had a visceral reaction recently because I saw one of the electric Mustangs for the first time,
Ew.
and I literally like my lunch came back
Really?
up
I
in
like
my throat a
'em.
little bit. No,
I like
No.
them.
no, no, you don't.
I don't like it.
No?
I don't like
No.
it.
No,
You don't like the Mach-E? I like it.
they don't. But they don't. I don't like them because they don't look like a Mustang. Like if
Yeah.
I want to drive a Mustang, I want to drive it because I want it to look like a Mustang.
Okay, but you can drive an actual Mustang. They still make Mustangs.
Yeah,
right? Mach-E's just-
I would. But I just those make me sad.
I don't
They look
know if I could buy a
weird.
Mustang that didn't like consume fossil fuels. And I would also need a standard. Like I don't think I could buy an automatic one.
So before I bought my first truck, I looked at a 2011 Mustang GT silver stick shift, test drove it with my brother. I didn't buy it. So I bought my truck because I was like, oh, I need to like do home improvement stuff. That asshole went and bought it. Like a month after I got my truck. He went to the lot, found that car, and bought it. And so it's in our garage. I drove it first, but that little jerk bought it.
I've had three.
I love my brother. Not a jerk, but kind of a jerk for buying that car. Anyway.
You are
I've had
such
3 in my
an older
lifetime.
brother, and I love you.
Sorry, Marty.
So I feel very strongly about them.
I
I also
broke up a
would.
little bit.
Oh, I've had 3
Okay.
in my life, so I feel very strongly about Mustangs, what they should look like. And so,
Right. No, I get it.
I also
get
don't.
that.
I also don't think they should be self-driving. So I'm glad that they don't have a self-driving one yet. Actually, I'm afraid of self-driving cars in general, especially with a bunch of kids behind them.
One thing we need to do before we have self-driving cars is repair our infrastructure
I was
in
going
the
to say the
US,
infrastructure doesn't seem to make sense with them.
especially. We can't have all the potholes we can't have all the full, like the faded lines on roads. I know as a human driver going some places, the lines are so faded. I'm like, where's the lane? What are we doing here? Um, Add rain on top of that, it's very, very difficult to see. So like there are so many things that we need to improve before the self-driving technology we have now would work. And we actually need the self-driving technology to
Is that
be
the car?
better.
That's just not his, but it looks similar to his.
Looks nice.
I mean, that's a
nice one.
pretty Mustang. That's
It's
a
a
pretty
Sorry,
one.
I just
I'll
had to.
give you that one.
I had to cleanse the
I'll
palate.
give you that one.
I really did. But you're right. We do have to fix our infrastructure
And
before we.
we can't have self-driving cars right now. And we do in some places. But there are a lot of obstacles.
I feel like self-driving cars are like one step above like level wise of scary as the Neo robot in my house taking care of the kids and the cats. Like what?
Look,
like no.
I have a dear friend in Dallas who, this is years before the tea company showed its true like the owner of the tea company showed his true colors. Had an early model, and it was it had like the ability to drive a little bit on its own. And I'm sitting in the car with them, and he like sets it to go down the block, right? And I was like, nope, nope, nope. Like cool, but no. Look, I used to not well, but I used to street race a little bit. The stupid things that people do when they're younger. I like cars. I like to drive. And I think I'm a fairly decent driver. Not decent as in like safe, normal, courteous driving, but I can drive a car if I have to in the ways that, Gone in 60 Seconds has shown us. So like, I can drive a car. I can't do self-driving. I can't give control over to, like, especially considering what I know. I don't trust, especially that company, to be secure. Especially that company.
Look, I've read too many Stephen King books where cars like go on like rampages and vengeful murdering sprees. So I have to trust that this podcast has proved that the authors are telling us about the future, the writers. So
the prophets of our time.
We're staying away from any Cadillacs and Plymouth Furies and demon possessed cars that drive themselves.
There was a Doctor Who episode with the 13th Doctor where there were a lot of like self-driving cars, and the cars were killing people because they were told to.
Yeah.
That was a creepy episode. Well, that was an interesting episode. But like the idea that when we give all of this control over how secure is it, how safe is it, how easily hacked is it, those are concerns.
Skynet.
Ooh.
Look,
warm and fuzzy feeling now. Thanks for bringing that up, Marty.
I mean, it comes down to this basic comment that Scott's talking about. And so anybody who doesn't understand air gapping, right? That's core critical infrastructure. Things that are this sensitive should not be connected to the regular internet. And they're definitely connected to the regular internet because Musk, damn it, isn't smart enough to understand the need for it, right? So that his systems would be open and vulnerable. I don't trust any company, though, that has self-driving cars, because there has been a big push in the industry. And when I say the industry, like people in like people who are not technology companies who run technology stacks, do not want air gap networks because it's double the infrastructure and super hard to like maintain. And this is what terrifies me.
Sorry.
It's not him that I'm worried about because the intellect of a turnip, like not at all worried about him. Worried about his cult. Anyway, it worries me heavily that we have these. Well, they haven't been approved, right? Like the self-driving feature was rejected because they couldn't prove they weren't going to turn into deadly fiery wrecks on the freeway, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the case. Anyway.
We're not there
I
yet.
only have one experience with one of these cars. The cars that will not be named. I only had one experience with it. I was in a parking lot, and a friend of mine had one, kind of like your story. And they were showing it to me. And they're like, I want to show you something really cool that my car does. And I'm thinking, okay, this is something that's useful, right? Like that your car can do for you. I'm thinking like excited. I like cars. Let me see what this car can do. They pushed a button. And I'm not even joking. The car started singing and dancing to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra Christmas music. Like,
I mean,
the windows
solid
would go up and
music.
down, the wipers, the doors would start opening like to the music. The lights would flash, and I was like,
That's cool.
it's cool. I'm like, that's cool. Why does my car need to do that?
You know what
It's
can
the
do
only-
that? My computer can do that. That's all I need.
Like,
The lights can flash to what?
I was just like, what if I'm driving down the road and I accidentally hit the Trans-Siberian Orchestra button in my car? It just starts dancing in the middle of the street. I don't know, man. No.
I do love the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So,
I do too.
adding a
So I was really
button
impressed.
to immediately get my vehicle to start playing, sure. But maybe not with like the windows. Can we just like stick with the speakers?
It was wild. It was wild. It was like somebody's house at Christmas. The lights flashed the music, and I was like, why? Why does your car do this? You're gonna make a car do something crazy, make it travel back in time. Or something.
Ooh, apparently I need to actually plug in my laptop.
But now I want to rewatch Minority Report and see what those cars look like again.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
I was
that.
actually at a car show recently, and they had a lot of what do you call it? Like my brain. I just lost my brain.
Cars.
They had like
from
they had a lot
media?
of cars. No, they had a lot
cars
of
at the car
they
show.
had cars. No, they had a lot of like these like single model futuristic, like the cars of the
Ooh,
future.
fun.
And they were just wild. Like one of them, no steering wheel, nothing. There's like
what
an
do you hold
iPad on the
to?
inside.
No.
You don't hold on to
You-
anything.
no,
it does
you-
everything
I-
for you. There was
I
no
don't like
control.
it.
I looked inside. Like I was like, it looks really
I-
cool on the outside. It opened
Joystick?
up. There was nothing inside. It was just
I-
Like-
seats.
I'm a
Not even
control
the Delta
freak. I
Flyer
can't do it.
joystick? Nothing?
I can't do it.
No. Yeah, right? The Delta
I
Flyer.
get
And I just was
car
like-
sick as it is.
Concept cars. Concept cars. That's the word I'm looking for. Concept cars. And I was just like, this is incredible.
Not for me.
It's also incredibly scary.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No, I'm sorry. Look,
Because like Joseph said, I can't trust. You have to trust. First of all, you have to trust the car.
Yeah.
You have to trust what's controlling the car. You have to trust the other people on the road. You have to trust the road. I don't have that much trust. I'm sorry.
No.
Trust no
I'm
one.
not that trusting. I'm
If
sorry.
Fox Mulder wouldn't drive it, I wouldn't drive it.
Ooh, I like that.
that's a good yeah.
I like
yeah,
that.
Yeah. See?
If Ian
okay.
Malcolm would say that we shouldn't have pursued the technology, I don't want to.
I think we should ask that of ourselves on everything. If Ian Malcolm
What
would
would
say
Ian
no,
Malcolm say? What
what would Ian
Fo-
Malcolm say?
What would Fox Mulder say? Like
Exactly.
We need to
yeah.
have an episode on deep dives.
We should.
Conspiracy theories. Anyway.
Oh, I
Yeah.
have a good one too. I came up with it this morning in the shower, as good conspiracies come to me. I'll share with you guys
That's a
later.
good place for them.
Or
Yeah.
for the conspiracy episode.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we need to wrap this up, huh?
All right. Well, that concludes episode 7, Weird Science. We're so glad that you tagged along with us today. Thank you to all of the commenters and the new moderators of our comment section for joining us today. Please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share our podcast with your friends, family, and good-minded trolls.
Yeah.
Next episode, October, is going to be...
In October, I think we're going to try and do a villain episode and a 80s horror movie episode. So we'll still have to figure out which one we want to do first.
Okay.
But it's going to be a great month. Great month.
It's going to be exciting.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Going out to explore. Tune-in comes to another frackin' podcast. Time travel, wormholes, and more. Chevron's locked on another frackin' podcast. Debating all the lore. We get signal of another frackin' podcast. Nerdy topics galore. Systems go for another frackin' podcast.